soon see.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. I'll call this meeting to order of the Butte LAFCo. This day, February 6, 2025, if you would join me in a salute to our flag. Guess I should have done roll call first, but anyway, we'll do this. Salute pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we'll have roll call.
Commissioner Bolin,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Here.
Chair Connolly, Commissioner McGrean,
Here.
Commissioner Duncan, Commissioner Betts, alternate Commissioner Rust,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Bradley, alternate Commissioner Ritter, alternate Commissioner Shepherd.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is basically the approval. Thank you.
Yes.
We're supposed to approval of the minutes of December 5th. Would anybody like to make any comments on the consent agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
A motion approved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hope it's okay to vote without roll call. Is that all right? Okay. We'll move on to item 3.1. These are public hearings. Looks like who should handle that today? Is that going to
I
be?
will.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. This is a proposal to annex a single parcel into the Lake Oroville Public Utilities District, or LOPUD, for the provision of wastewater collection services. The annexation would facilitate the subdivision of the parcel with, it's a 54-acre parcel into 10 single-family residential lots. The project was approved by the Butte County Planning Commission, and LOPUD initiated annexation on behalf of the property owner. So annexation into LOPUD would provide centralized wastewater collection services with sewage treatment provided by the wastewater treatment plant operated by the Sewerage Commission Oroville Region, or SCORE. Both of these entities have expressed their ability to serve the project at no detriment to their existing customers. And this is supported by the 2024 Municipal Service Review. Last year.
Your mic went off.
Did you do that? So today I'm asking that the commission would approve LAFCo file number 2506, Lake Oroville Public Utility District, Mount Ida Road Annexation number 3, adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program and reporting program, waive protest hearing pursuant to Government Code Section 56662, and adopt the resolution approving the annexation. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, you want us to do a lot today on that, don't
The
you?
heavy lift, yeah.
Wow. Okay, before I ask for any comments from the board members, I do have to say, the best part about government is we have great acronyms. How about LOPUD?
LOPUD and SCORE, yeah.
I like that one. Okay, any comments from or questions from commissioners?
So it has nothing to do with this really, I guess, but so the county okayed it, the subdivision hasn't gone in, and then they want to annex.
The condition of approval for the subdivision map was that they annex into LOPUD for sewer service. So
Okay.
each of the parcels would be served with a domestic well for water service, and then LOPUD provides sewer service
But
out there.
they're still county.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mr. Breeden, would you like to comment on this? Are you here for this item? You just here as an interested party. Okay. All right. Any other comment?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Breeden, if I may.
Yes.
I understand that Mr. Breeden, you oversaw the environmental document for the project, on behalf of the county. Is that correct?
Is that on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, just a question out of curiosity. What is the maximum cul-de-sac length for new developments in Butte County?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. It's different for the different types of zoning. So
okay.
it's overseen within our subdivision ordinance, as a part of, safety with regards to, fire safety,
Mhm.
and particularly overseen by CAL FIRE.
Okay.
So they review that cul-de-sac length against the recommendations of our subdivision
Right,
ordinance.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Wishes of the board? I mean, wishes of the commission?
Move approval.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Do you want a roll call on this or just kind of vote? You want a roll call? Okay,
Resolution.
okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Bolin,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Aye.
Commissioner McGrehan,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Yes.
Commissioner Rust.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, it passes. We'll move on to regular agenda. Any items removed from the consent agenda? We had none. Appointment of Budget Committee for 2025-26 fiscal year. That's item 4.2. Who wants to handle this? Or who wants to volunteer, right? Okay.
This is obviously a very uniform process we go through every February prior to exercising our budget preparation to ask you to form a committee to advise us on the tentative budget that we will bring forward to the full commission in April and then for full commission approval in May. So today, we just want you to ask to find 4 folks who want to serve. And what we've done in the past is have one from each category: public, special district, city, and county. You can see the 4 folks that were there last year. If those 4 people want to continue, that would be outstanding. That went very well. I'd appreciate if you'd all come back. But I also know there's a strong thing that, Mr. Connolly's not here, so you probably want to appoint him to something in his absence, but.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. Last
Otherwise-
year, we had commissioners Kimmelshoe, Johnson, McGrehan, and Betts. Is there any opposition to those folks continuing? It's a very lengthy process. Okay, do we need a motion on this or just?
Your direction is fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's what we'll do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those that are doing it.
As long as there's lunch involved,
Good job.
it'll be nice. Okay,
Let me know your restrictions.
all right.
John.
Sounds my dietary restrictions. None. Okay, here we go. 4.3, update on agency investments.
Yeah, so this is as was requested when this commission adopted our investment policy back in June 2024. It was requested that we give periodic updates as to how that investment's going. So after the policy was adopted in June, we identified $250,000 for investment into a CD through Tri-Counties Bank. We realized a interest rate of, I want to say it was 3.682. That came to maturity on January 19th. Realizing an interest of $5,532.78. So that balance was then reinvested into a new CD just recently, which would come to maturity in July. And that interest rate will be about 4.4 over a six-month period. So I tried to kind of give you an idea of what that money could have done for us if we had kept it in the county treasury, but it's just too difficult. There's just really not a way to compare. They're just so diverse at the treasury. And so it's really hard to identify, what we could have realized if we had left it in the treasury. But I still think we're doing the right thing with that money. And we still have a significant balance of our balance with the treasury. So If you have any further direction for me, I'll take it. Otherwise, this was just an update on what we've been doing.
Okay, so this is for information only. Any questions from commissioners? Okay. Any public comment? Any public comment on how we should be investing our funds? Okay. Wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to 4.4, update on formation of Tuscan Water District.
Yes, good morning, Commission. I am particularly happy to bring this report to you this morning. For those of you who endured that year-long process, 2-year-long process, 5 for me, in forming the Tuscan Water District, today I can report to you that they have accomplished all of their required conditions. But I want to run through this just to really make it clear. There was so much conversation about whether or not they could do this or if they would do it correctly and so forth. And of course, we felt we adequately trained and conditioned them on the process of formation. So right now, as of today, they have established the third Wednesday of each month for their official meeting and have been doing so since their creation in February of last year. They currently meet at the University Farm, but they are executing a lease as we speak to take space in the Farm Bureau building out in Durham Dayton Corners there at Four Corners, which is an ideal symbiotic relationship, if you will, between the two entities. So we're thrilled with that. They have successfully elected all of their officers. They have created all of their committee assignments and contracted with a manager and legal counsel to conduct their business. Their business is put out on their website, which is growing as every day goes by, and they have more to put up. Their meetings are also zoomed out as well. So during the 6-month time or the year that they had since formation, they had several things they had to achieve that the commission required them to achieve. One of them was to submit an adoption for an MSR SOI plan. They did that and submitted the deposit. We are currently processing that in-house, and you will see that within the next couple months. We asked them to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the various GSAs so that it would establish their relationship so that they would have a smooth working relationship. That was approved by Rock Creek, by Vina, and then just this past Tuesday by the Board of Supervisors as the Butte County GSA. So they now have executed memorandums of agreement with all of the primary GSAs that they will work with within the district. And I know Mr. Kimmelshue has seen those agreements, at least on behalf of the, well, both on the county and the Vina GSA. And I think they're fairly comprehensive and they spell out a very close working relationship, which I might add, and he knows as well, is without the agreement, they were already working very closely together on projects. So the agreement was really just to exercise that condition and tell the commission and all of the world that we are doing what we said we would do. Just, of course, last Tuesday, we asked them to form 9 electoral divisions within the entirety of the district. And then one individual selected from each of those divisions. They have submitted that to the board and the board approved that map last week. So they have now met that condition. And I'm going to leave the biggest one because it was the scariest one for last, which was they also completed their 218 revenue generation election, which concluded on January 15th, for which they got 88% approval for their parcel charge. That's phenomenal for those of you who've been through and trying to get measures through anybody, regardless of their support or not. Money's money. That was a very arduous process for them, but they did a lot of outreach, and it obviously demonstrated that they could do what they want, and that it's desired within that area that they exist to help implement the groundwater sustainability plans. And that was ostensibly what they were there for to begin with. So I'll just close this with saying that I've had the opportunity to form some smaller districts, many county service areas over the years, but in terms of forming a brand new district of this size, magnitude, and importance, I could not be happier. Tell you here today that I could not be happier with how it has turned out. I think this commission guided that process so carefully and so thoroughly, and your conditions that you applied addressed every question. And I actually have one more thing, then I'll stop. But it was interesting because at the public meetings for the revenue measure, a lot of questions came up. And while the district probably wasn't as happy when we put 19 conditions on that approval 2 years ago, every one of those conditions answered every one of those questions that was asked of them. It made it, and the comment back to me was, those conditions made it very easy for us to address the public questions. So that's all I have for you. I just wanted to give you all an update and a pat on the back, because this was not an easy project, as you all know, and it turned out well. And it turned out well because we stayed and the commission stayed involved. And I hope we will stay involved with the district from here on out. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, I just have a few comments, and as all the commissioners here know, we appreciate you giving us credit for what happened, but we all know that it was the staff that did the work. And probably in your 30-plus years at LAFCo, Mr. Lucas, this might have been the most difficult project that you've ever worked on. And so we appreciate the work you did. I think there was adequate and an abundance of public comment. We heard the public comment. The commissioners heard that public comment and moved forward with this new district. It's actually the only groundwater district in the state of California. So we've plowed some new ground and this area. I believe it's the only one.
No, there's one other.
Is there one other? In fact, I stand corrected. But well done. Thank you. We look forward to working as a member of the county and also as the member of the GSA. We look forward to working with this entity to make sure that our groundwater is sustainable. And we're working with different projects. There's plenty of, well, I wouldn't say there's plenty of money, but there's money out there from the state of California, plus the money that the individuals who own the land in those areas are committing to these projects. So I'm very optimistic about how we can work together to make sure our groundwater is sustainable. So with that, any other comments?
I want to ditto what you said. You're right. You guys did an incredible job. So thank you for saying that it was our part, but our part was small compared to yours. Maybe you answered this, but one of the big issues that came up in that whole thing was that there would be more representation from large groups as opposed to individuals. How's that working out with your board members?
So at present, they were all elected and at the formation time of formation, and they are all, and it's a spread. There's everyone from literally the largest landowner to the several farmers that are on the board that are in the, and when I say the largest, we're talking about 15,000 acres. Some of the smallest are in the 800 to 1,200 acre range. So, but the real question is, what will it look like after the first set of elections occur, after the 9 divisions are in place? Because what we know is, even if you take the 3 largest landowners, the best they could possibly do, if they got everybody in their divisions to vote for them as a representative, is they may be able to get 3 seats out of 9. So putting those into divisions was critical to making sure that the diversity on that board was maintained. So you can always say somebody can control 1 seat or 2, but 3 out of 9 is by no means a majority. So to answer your question, I think now it's up to and Mr. Kimmelshoe knows this very well. Certainly there were a lot of people who had valid complaints for why they did not like being in the district. But at this point, some of those folks, largely on the actual west side of Chico on the spear boundary, those are people who have a real chance. If they can get out and walk and talk to their neighbors, they can get on the board. So some of the opponents of the district have an opportunity to actually control 2 or 3 seats as well. So this is classic democracy, right? Those who care the most will put the effort in, and they tend to get the seats. So it's a fair playing field. There was a lot of talk about that, about the inequality of the process. And I just think this process that we see today thoroughly debunks those comments. So
Good, thank you.
No, that's an excellent choice, excellent point, and that there are many domestic users in the area. There's many small farmers in the area, and I think that like Mr. Lucas said, they have an option to get on the board if they'd like to. And also, I just wanted to say, I believe all the meetings are open to the public.
oh, absolutely.
And so any member from the public can attend these meetings and voice their opinions. So I see you, Larry. I'll get you. Any other comments from board members?
Well, I want to thank the staff. a yeoman's job on this and you bear the brunt of a lot of criticism despite that. I think we ended up with a good product. We really did.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you very much. Mr. Evans, would you like to speak now? Please come to the podium.
I won't offer to ask a question next time.
Okay,
How do they vote? Do they vote one person, one vote?
no. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You've got this
No,
down.
no,
but
no,
I'm happy-
please, I'll mess it up. Go ahead.
So it's a landowner voter district, so this is not a registered voter district, so only landowners
Yeah.
have the ability to vote. They can also establish a proxy for themselves. And the votes are tabulated as based on the acres of the land that they have in the system, which is why the electoral divisions was so
Like
important.
most water districts, it's.
Any water district form,
20,000 acres, you got 20,000 votes.
correct.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
You also pay that percentage of the costs, just to be clear.
Mhm. Yeah,
But one of the most David is the one that gets on the board because he puts himself on.
yeah, and that is California Water Code, I believe. Is that right? Or
Yes.
California Water Law, whatever you want to call it.
It's in the water code under the California Water Districts law. So that principal act has been around since 1912, something like that. and
Okay.
Never changed.
Yep.
Highly.
All right. Any other comments from board members? Any other public comment? You sure? Okay. All right. We'll close public comment. That's for information only. That's great information. Thank you. We will move on then to public comment on any items not on the agenda. We're willing to listen to any public comment, but we cannot take action on any comment, on any public comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to reports and communication, 6.1 Executive Officers Report.
Okay, I'll take that one myself. First item, I actually wasn't going to add anything to it because we're still looking for an office, but literally just yesterday I came into work to find a giant puddle under my desk and water flowing through this roof of our building.
Some people pay a lot of money for those type of water features.
I'll keep that in mind. So anyhow, it's just an ongoing level of frustration with that particular location. So I don't need to say anything more, but we're going to continue.
I think
to look.
Biggs, Gridley, and Durham might probably have a lot of great office space.
Maybe we'll check. Maybe we'll check with the Farm Bureau, see if they got any more.
Yeah, the Farm
space
Bureau,
out
that's
there.
true.
Well, Paradise does too.
Paradise does too. Okay.
Talk to me after.
Yeah, don't forget about it. The rest of us.
Check. The budget or the ongoing audit continues. We will have that for you sometime in the early part of spring, summer. But no, she's been to our office, done all the initial work, and there's no particular issues at this point that we have any concerns about. So, and Crystal has been on point. She hates this, but I'm going to do it anyhow. Is that since we have made Crystal office manager and reorganized internally, it is this year that she is going to be responsible for dealing with the budget and dealing with the audit. And she took on the audit gracefully and it learned a lot. So I want to give her credit. So right now we're going through it. And after this year, she'll be an expert.
Thank you, Kristen.
Ongoing items that are with some new updates on the Oroville Sewer Agencies issue. I'm just happy to say that the Master Cooperative Review Agreement was I don't want to say reinstated because it has never been terminated, but it has been reconstituted and we have received our first 2 requests for comments on 2 projects within the Oroville area. So I thank whoever helped with that. We're there and we've accomplished that and we'll start providing those comments as will the district. I met with one of those districts yesterday and they're thrilled that it's started back up again. City of Chico growth meeting. We've been Shannon and I have been going to those pretty religiously, and there's not a lot that's changing, and you might imagine in the perspectives between the folks who are perhaps what you might call no growth, or they like to think of it as smart growth, compared to those of us who believe in it is a general plan process, and you adopt that, and you go through zoning, and you go through a specific plan. And I don't want to go into the whole thing, but there's a real disconnect there, and there's this idea that, the city can fit all of its new growth into infill development sites, and it's just not reasonable or feasible to do so in so many different ways. That doesn't mean you don't try and you don't take every opportunity you can to utilize those. But what this commission is likely to see, just is why I'm giving you this sort of a heads up, is Valley's Edge project may or may not be dead. It's dead as we know it, as it was defeated by the referendum. That it, they can bring that back within 2 years and start the process over. They also have the opportunity to shop it to the county, and they also have the opportunity to go to the county with something far less, perhaps 20-acre minimum lots, which is the current zoning. I speculate now as to what they might choose to do, but ultimately this commission, your staff will have a big role in that, because we put that 1,448 acres into their sphere of influence because it was proven that they needed that acreage to grow for the next 30 years and accommodate those 35 residents that are going to be 1,000 residents that are going to be coming. So now the city has lost 1,500 acres essentially of developable territory that was going to produce thousands of rooftops for folks. So what are they going to do? Where are they going to pick 1,500 acres somewhere else? Is it going to be on the other side of the green line? Is it going to be north of town? So just point of thing is when a referendum comes up and it disrupts a significant project like that, it doesn't just stop that one project. It disrupts the entire planning equation across the board, because this doesn't just affect the city. It affects us. It's going to affect the schools. It's going to affect the recreation and park district. It's going to affect the county. This was not just an exercise in democracy that just killed that one project. So we will have a role to play moving forward, and I'll keep you informed as new things come up. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
It's not only that, it affects the cost of everything too. I mean, everything inside that sphere is going to cost more and more.
Right.
And it's going to be to where it's unaffordable.
Well, fundamentally, I think all the numbers come to one simple conclusion: is the only way to bring down housing costs and provide more housing is to provide more land.
Right.
We can argue all day long about how high you can build and make up for that, but the reality is the cost as you go up by every floor over 2 starts to increase that project and make it less feasible. And that's to assume that people even want to live in those types of environments. So having said that, this is where they're in a crisis. Chico has had a very tight sphere, for those of you who are familiar with Chico, for a long time. This commission has done a wonderful job of making sure they live within their abilities, and they have. And I give full credit to the city planning department for doing what I consider to be really smart growth throughout the years. Their sphere is not that much bigger than it was 40 years ago. Not too many cities can say that. So this idea that they're sprawling or growing inappropriately, I think, is just a myth. So I could go on. I have a lot of opinions, but I'll stop.
I just wanted to make one comment on that committee or group that gets together about growth, the Chico area. It would be nice to have someone invited from Butte County to sit on that, because once you start talking about the green line, those individuals can talk all they want about the green line, but the only entity that has the ability to move that green line is the county. So just a suggestion.
I will make that suggestion for
Okay.
you. You have some extra time in your schedule?
I'd be happy to sit in on that.
So moved.
Yeah.
Well done, Greg.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Yes, sir. Tuscan Ridge project, this was, we've talked about it a little bit in the past. This was recently approved by the Board of Supervisors at its December 5th meeting. I say in here that it was without an identified service provider for domestic water. It's still that is the case. So that project is done. As far as I know, there's been no appeals processed on it. But at this point, that project developer is going to have to work with us and ostensibly PID or some other entity yet to find, because I can't tell you today where the water is going to come from for the project or how it's going to be maintained, but we will have a role to play one way or another.
Yeah, we just had the executive director for the PID come and speak to the Butte County Water Commission, which I was in attendance. And it sounds like PID has no interest in this working with this group. So they've got a lot of hurdles to get over to make sure that this is done correctly.
So you can expect to see this almost certainly back in front of you in some amount of months in the future when a solution is on the cusp, and most likely we'll be forming a CSCA or somehow working with the PID if they have a change of heart. I don't know any other approach to solving this problem. So that's it. I'll keep you updates as it comes up.
Mr. Breeden, did you want to comment on this? I'm sorry if you don't mind,
No, no,
Okay.
absolutely.
because it did become before the board and the board approved it.
It's your
with
meeting.
conditions. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
Council, members of LAFCo, Dan Breeden, Planning Manager for Development Services, Butte County. Yeah, so this, we've seen this on the Executive Manager's Report a couple of months now. I think it was last time in December. We saw a few questions come up. We wanted to rectify those. The Tuscan Ridge project, of course, was subject to a lot of review. A large EIR, few hearings. 65 conditions of approval apply to the project. Among those, several pertaining to the management and maintenance of the on-site water and wastewater systems, including pertaining to an extraterritorial service agreement with PID. And as an alternative, the formation of a legal entity such as a CSA to fund operation and maintenance. The conditions of approval also include the construction of on-site water conveyance and sewage collection and treatment facilities as included in the project's description. So it's important to note that water is not being delivered to Tuscan Ridge. All right, water is being produced on site by a production well. The question being the oversight and the entity, which are very important things to take into account. So as part of the review process undertaken by our department, a standard letter of intent was received on June 15th, 2021, from the PID district manager at that time, indicating an intent on district's part to manage and maintain the water and wastewater systems of the Tuscan Ridge development. So that's a condition of approval. That's something that has to be taken into account prior to that MAPS recording. So the entitlement for Tuscan Ridge included a rezone, a plan development, and a subdivision map, all three things. Subdivision map cannot be recorded, lots cannot be sold or built upon until those conditions are satisfied. So we just wanted to make sure that was clear, that a lot of the procedural due process was undertaken to ensure that the viability of the project, the appropriateness of the project to develop was in place.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Breeden? No. Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much
Thank you.
for being here. We appreciate it.
You bet.
I hope it's okay that I interrupted you on that.
Absolutely. It's your meeting. That's all I had to share on that particular item.
Okay.
Moving on to the, this is another interesting kind of quirky issue. Sorry, get myself back here. It's listed under new under the Barber Yard project, but this really is not a comment about the Barber Yard project at all. That's a city property. It's incorporated. It's undergoing a specific plan as we speak, and it is ostensibly a very good plan, and the city very much needs it. So this is not a comment about that project at all. It's a comment about one part of the infrastructure of that project, and I think the staff report shows you that in the attachments as well. So a small portion of this area, so it's Barber Yard's a very large area, but there's a very small 4-acre area that's in the unincorporated county. And it's on the other side of the green line, the wrong side, as we might say. And it's also outside of the sphere of influence. So the city of Chico wants to propose, or the developer has proposed, and the city supports, is allowing the detention basin for this facility to be located off-site, off the actual project site, on unincorporated territory on the other side of the green line, outside of the city sphere. Though the city has to extend, that's a city extension of municipal services outside of their boundary. That ultimately is going to have to come to LAFCo to approve. Our concern will be, and this is mixing, and it's a policy issue for certain, is do you consider, certainly if this was a proposal for a development on the wrong side of the green line, this would have gone nowhere. So this is for a piece of infrastructure, a detention basin, an outfall pipe that will go to Comanche Creek, but it's still going to consume 4 to 6 acres of territory outside of the city. They need to extend that service. The question will be is, does that violate the green line? Should that infrastructure supporting that very large development be contained entirely within the city limits and within the limits of that development? or outside. I don't have a problem with the idea that this is being off-site. This is not it. The issue is simply, it's an extension of services outside of the boundaries of the city, and it breaks the green line in the process. I don't know what kind of discussions might have taken place at the county concerning the green line. But we have a lot of policies about it, and it does trouble me some that the decision was made to run this project through the works, which has been in the works now for probably 5 to 7 years from its infancy. Somewhere along the line, the decision was made to move this off-site, and it all just kind of was accepted by everybody until it became an item in front of the Board of Supervisors a week ago, I believe, right? It was just this last meeting.
Last meeting.
Asking the county to approve of that service or that extension, just putting the facilities in there. And that's when this issue arose. So there may be an easy solution to it. I don't know what the solution is yet, but I just want to let you know that that's probably going to be coming in front of you within the next few months as well, for the consideration of whether or not this commission believes that this 4 acres of related infrastructure for a development should be contained within the development and within the city limits, and not be allowed to creep on the other side of the green line. I didn't write a report about it today. I didn't analyze it for you today. This is just really all just came up, and I want to give you a heads up that that's what's on the horizon. So I'll keep you advised as things come to us.
There's an additional problem in that under the statute, you can't extend services beyond your sphere of a city. And so this is outside the sphere. So legally, you as a commission, I would have to tell you, you cannot approve an extension of services outside the sphere. So if this area is to be developed for a municipal service, it will have to be annexed to the sphere of the city, or we can't advise you to approve it.
Mind you, similar to other projects, this is not your project. This is not our concern in a sense. We have let them know what this is. This is just one of those scenarios where we don't have any control over the development of that piece of land. We just accept what they have decided, and then I offer comment. So that's where we're at. So there's plenty of time for them to internally correct that, I believe. This project is just now going out for a draft EIR. So they are months or a year away probably from an approval. And so they have a lot of time to work on how they can maybe rectify this situation. Otherwise, we're all going to be dealing with this very real issue of what the green line means, how it is to be interpreted, how it is to be enforced. And I'll let Mr. Kimmelshoe lead the charge on that one. We just react, and we have policies that strongly support the green line. So just an FYI.
Okay, so again, Mr. Brown, that area under statute would have to be annexed into the city of Chico, is that correct?
Not annexed, it would have to, well, it would preferably, that would be the case.
Okay,
It would at a minimum have to be added to the sphere of the city.
okay, added to the sphere, okay. And so at this point, nothing on the agricultural side of the green line is in the sphere of the city of Chico, is that correct?
Their coterminous, correct.
Okay. And have you had conversations or communications with the city of Chico on this item?
Ms. Costa spoke with them very briefly some time ago.
In the report of years ago, when the application was received by the planning department, they let us know that they intended to utilize a process that they had in previous years, but we didn't know all the details at that point. And all the details did not come before us until just recently when the EIR was.
So when the project proponents ask me who they should speak with, is it Ms. Costa or is it Mr. Lucas? Or both?
I'll take the heat, but both of us can talk
Okay.
about it.
All right, great. Okay, thank you.
Well, Todd, you said last week the board was presented with this situation.
Yeah,
From the
and
city, what
from the city.
direction did the board give staff on it?
we tabled it.
Tabled it,
Yeah,
oh.
and asked to get more information.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll have to, give Supervisor Connolly the credit. I asked that it actually was on the consent agenda, and I asked that it be brought off the consent agenda for actually a different reason. But then Mr. Connolly noticed this situation, which he's much more well-versed in these issues than I am. And so that's how we tabled it, brought it back to move on and talk to LAFCo about it. So you haven't had any conversation at this
Not
point?
as of yet, no.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Breeden.
Thank you, Chair Kimmelshoe. Again, Dan Breeden, Planning Manager, Development Services, Butte County. Yeah, so we have engaged in the city of Chico on this project.
Okay.
We commented on the notice of preparation for the EIR. And that was back on May 4th. This included addressing appropriate entitlements for the development of the planned offsite drainage basin and conveyance, consistency with the agricultural zoning, and the conversion of farmlands to a non-agricultural use for that basin and the lines that serve that basin. This draft EIR is currently under review, closes on February 20th. So we're reviewing that at that time. We're going to be addressing whether or not the city has addressed those comments that we brought
Perfect.
forth under the notice of prep.
Great. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
This sounds like a precedent setting issue. So we appreciate your help. Thank you, Mr. Breeden.
You bet.
You bet. Any other questions?
I have a question, and maybe it doesn't pertain, but is there a buffer zone on this project?
Like between the project.
Yeah,
The project itself, I would say, is a buffer. The way it's the Barber yard is highly disturbed. And so, and then it gradually turns into ag land outside of Barber Yard. And I haven't seen the exact plans, but I would imagine that it's developed in a way that buffers the residential neighborhood into that intense ag use.
What you're talking about, though, is the 300-foot
Yeah.
buffer, right? Which we require in the Gridley area.
The city of Chico has its own general plan and zoning policy and I believe it's a 100-foot, and that was done after extensive study. So their general plan requires a 100-foot buffer. And like I said, maybe he's seen the actual footprint of the project, but I would venture to guess that it's there.
Yeah, so this is where it gets confusing, and I will have to
Right.
side with my colleague here, is that the city of Gridley has the same, or possibly could have the same 100-foot buffer requirement, yet we have always required on development in the Gridley Biggs area a 300-foot setback. So why is that not being? I guess I'm confused. Which takes precedent, the county or the city on these buffer requirements? Does that make sense?
So it is, and the scenario has to be defined. So to be clear, you're looking at Barber Yard and it is in the city. It is already annexed. It's incorporated territory. The only obligation they have is to follow what their internal general plan docket and guidelines and agricultural setbacks are. If this was an annexation coming to this body, then we would have the leverage to say, we want that to be something different, but we do not have that leverage here. Ridley, those are new developments on ag land that are in the unincorporated territory for where the county, and then with combination partnering with LAFCo, has a lot of ability then to say what we want that final boundary to look like. So the city, in a sense, gets its own pass, because the best that the county can do at this point is to provide a comment saying, we wish it to be 300 feet according to what our policies, and you can only hope that they might apply it, but they're not required to apply it.
I'll add to that, the city of Gridley's general plan does provide language that boundary or that buffer could be reduced when it's studied and when there's reason to reduce it based on a circumstance or based on a mitigation. And we've just not seen that from Gridley. We've not seen a product that has put the extensive study into why that buffer could be reduced. Whereas, like I mentioned, the city of Chico's buffer was reduced down to 100 based on wind studies and all various types of environmental documents that talk about the types of ag that surround the city and what they could be used instead of the buffer, things like that. And so I would say that the city of Gridley right now is in a place where they could begin to reduce that buffer when the appropriate thought is put into it.
So your suggestion is to, I mean, if the city of Gridley wants to work with this situation, that their planner should speak with you folks, or who should they consult with on something like this?
I mean, it's written in their general plan, and
Okay.
so I'm happy to guide anybody to that section of their general plan. To me, it's very clear. It's not, there's not a gray area, that the buffer can be reduced in certain circumstances. I've said it to them many times. I've written it to them many times, and so it's not any new information, and I'm happy to, and we will gladly interpret that. We don't have any choice but to interpret that the same way if a project comes to us that says, we've chosen to reduce the buffer based on this amount of study that we put into it and based on these certain circumstances. We've just, like I said, not seen that come before us yet.
If I may, back to the Barbie project. LAFCo staff, are you in the process of reviewing the draft EIR that's out that
Yes, sir.
as a for an FYI, would you be willing to generate any comments and share them with the commissioners electronically?
Yes, if that's what you would prefer.
If the commission so
Yes.
desires.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. And we'll also submit those comments and put it back on the agenda, included in our packet for a meeting as well.
Okay. Great. Good conversation. I keep interrupting you, but keep going.
No, that's all right. You said that you were gonna make this the shortest meeting ever, and
Yeah.
I can tell Bill's chuckling, right?
Typical politician making promises that he can't keep.
The next item is, this is an unfortunate one. It's about, it's the Town of Paradise Sewer Project. You recall this has been going on for quite some time as well. And, LAFCo's role in this was to approve the service extension that would allow the sewer pipe to go from the town to the regional plant outside Chico. So we did our part, and we all assumed, I guess, everything was moving forward until the town council got the bad news that the project cost had skyrocketed. The quote out of their own report was, currently, it as envisioned, is the project is financially infeasible. I'm just letting you know the outcome of that. I don't know what our role will be moving forward or what the town might consider. Mr. Bolin might want to share some thoughts. He may not even know yet quite how this is going to unfold. But there are options, and some of those options might involve boundaries and services, thus us. But I don't know what those are, but I have had some conversations about it, and I won't even get into those because they're too speculative. But I don't know, Greg, if you have anything you'd like to add.
Just for full disclosure, I'm unable to be a part of those meetings because of FPPC rulings against me. Anyway, moving forward, the project's gonna probably be downsized and changed. It's just the unfortunate part, the very tough part was do what we want you to do, and that is the time with Chico. And we were told through the state and everybody, that's what we want you to do. Go there. We're there with you. We're there for you. We'll be with you. We'll help you. We'll have the money for you. Not so much. We don't have the money for you, and we don't have the ability to help you, and we're sorry, you're on your own and we can't do it. There's just no way. So the council, the rest of the council is looking at downsizing it and come up with something that will work in a smaller footprint that we contain and we control there. So
No, please convey to your staff if there's anything they think we can help with. We're happy to do so. It's extraordinarily important project, obviously, for the towns
Very much.
and for the rebuild of the entire county for that matter. So
yeah, they know that, and we will be reaching out, but it's just, we're wandering in the wilderness right now.
So I hate to end on that bad news, but if there's any other comments or questions you have of me, that concludes my report.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Any public comment for Mr. Lucas? All right. With that, do we need to adjourn to a closed session?
Update on that. Obviously, you can see that two of our primary members, Mr. Connolly and Mr. Betts, are not here today.
Uh-huh.
We think, Scott and I talked about it. We think it's important that the chair and as many of the sitting commissioners can be there. If it's okay with you, we would prefer to just move this and take it to the March meeting.
Okay. Do
It's
need
just
any ac-
not,
do
it's
we
not
need
a
any-
crisis of
Okay.
timing.
Do we need any action on that? No?
No,
we-
we're just not gonna
Okay.
hold it.
All right. Next meeting, Thursday, March 6th, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.